Hopefully, everything is as it's supposed to be. It's funny how
Hopefully.
sometimes it just technology wants to play well and sometimes it doesn't.
That's right.
But that's okay. We are persistent people.
We are that.
So, welcome to Wednesday Night Live. Tonight we will be talking about apology languages, and this will be part one, probably of a 4-part series.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited. We talked at the beginning of the year when we did love languages that we were going to do apology languages because I think it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of people don't know about it. When I mention apology languages, people are like, what? But it's so important.
Yes.
Just like we have a love language, we have a life language, we have an apology language. So we'll get into that. So don't change that dial. Don't move away from the channel or wherever you're watching at, because it's going to be good. And after this live, we are going to be doing a
Healing meeting.
And if you're looking for a growth-minded community, we have a great bunch of people. I love that we're able to hop on to a healing meeting. We do it every every last Wednesday of the month. And we do it right after the lives. And we just kind of continue the conversation about what we're talking about. And I love it because we get to experience community that way. There's a lot of people out there that it's great for our community in person here, but it's a neat way to connect with people outside of our local area. So I love that part of it. So talking about a couple announcements, we just started talking about the healing meeting. Don't go anywhere. We'll drop a comment to tell you how to get to the Zoom. And also, did we send to the link for Emotions and Money class?
Yeah, she's got it.
She'll drop a link to the Emotions and Money class also. This Sunday is when the first homework drops.
I know.
On the class, this is the last week to sign up for it. Sign up for it. It's going to be life-changing. It really, really is. And so sign up for it this week. Our homework, how it's going to work is our homework will drop on a Sunday, and then we have an online Zoom. Later on, after we finish this 8-week course, we'll be putting it on the website as an online course only. But for this limited time, for this first run with it, you can be in the group process, which is really huge.
Yeah. It'll make a big difference for people.
It does, because not only do you get to watch the videos, you do the homework, you can have access to a forum to talk and ask questions, but with this hybrid online course, you get every Thursday from 7 to 9, you get to log on to a Zoom and we discuss the video. We're going to discuss the homework. There's going to be activations. So this is a limited time. We don't always, for the online courses, sometimes they're just online courses.
Right.
But this is a hybrid course in which we will have process time. You'll get live teaching. You'll get video teaching.
Yep.
You get interaction. Man, you just get it all.
I agree. You won't want to miss it.
You won't. So make sure that you sign up too. We'll have dropped the link in the comments. And let's talk about this Sunday. What is this Sunday?
Round table Sunday.
That's right. I love it. We've been talking about lately, will you allow Jesus to be your advocate? Instead of advocating for yourself, will you let Jesus advocate for you?
Right.
And we are on part 3 of that. That's been a really good discussion that we've been talking about for, will you let Jesus be your advocate?
Yeah.
It's so hard to let him go before you, be your forerunner, clear the path for you. But, man, it just works out completely different when you let him take the lead on that and let him take up your case. So very, very, very important. And then on June 8th, we have the Spiritual Growth Workshop for June. And it is on Break Free from Chaos. Man, I won't talk too much about that because we have to get into the other stuff. Everybody has chaos in their life. And if you want to know how to break free from it, if you want to know how you're contributing to the chaos in your life, come to the workshop. We will let you know how you are contributing to your own chaos.
Yeah.
It's so funny because people kind of the chaos, drama, just like the crazy life, whatever you want to call it. There is a way that you're contributing to it, and it's important to figure out the ways in which we're feeding the chaos wheel versus the way that we're trying to break free from it. So it's going to be an excellent workshop. Also, just a reminder, we are going to be on Grace Awakening Network. That's going to start in July. We are so excited.
Yeah.
We've just been talking about it and getting ready for it and prepping it. We will be, our first episode, excuse me, will air July 5th.
I know, it's
That
coming
is
quick.
it is coming so fast, and we're trying to get the camera ready, get it filmed, all that kind of stuff. And there's been people ask, is there anything we can do to help with that? 100%. The biggest area right now that we need for Grace Awakening Network for our TV show on there is honestly financial contributions. It's TV is not inexpensive.
Right.
And so we think we got a great deal, we always try to be an excellent steward of what the monies that come in. So we would just ask, if it's on your heart, if Jesus puts it on your heart, God puts it on your heart to contribute to our endeavor in that, we really, really appreciate it. Each episode costs.
Yes.
And that's okay. The Lord will provide. But if he puts it on your heart to sponsor an episode, please do. We love that. It would help. It helps us a lot. So enough of the announcements.
Yes.
Let's do our little chit chat, our chitty chat. So I'll start. Usually you start
I
first.
know,
But I'm
you
so
can.
excited about mine.
Yay.
This my youngest son Parker, my necklace keeps hitting
Aw.
over here. Let me probably
It's
put
so
it over
cute.
here. I know. You know who gave it to me?
Mm-mm.
Lauren and David Thorpe
Aw.
gave that to me when
That's
they
so
were out in
sweet.
California. I know.
Neat.
But my son was in town. My
I
youngest son
know.
was in town.
Parker.
I know. So that was really fun. It was so sad when he leaves. It's so weird, empty nest. It's crazy how you get used to them being there so fast. The day after he left, I went out to my car to go somewhere, and his car wasn't in the driveway anymore. And I was like, oh, it just, I got so used to him being there for,
the couple days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet it is hard. You transition from mom, not mom, mom, not, you're
I
always
know.
mom, but I just mean when he's around, it's like,
It
I would
is.
think you would just naturally go into mom mode.
I do.
when your
Like I
kids are
just
around.
like all my nurturing hormones fly all over the place. It's like I must cook food. I
Aw.
must do this. I must do that. And
Yeah.
it really does. And it's hard too. The last time I saw him was around Christmas, and my eldest was in town, my daughter-in-law too.
Yeah.
And so it makes me miss them too. And
Of course, yeah.
it's just, it gets crazy.
Aw,
it's
well, I'm
crazy.
glad you got to spend some time with him.
Me too. It was so good to see
Yeah,
him.
I got to see him. It was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's
I know.
He's doing so good, and just
loving his life, getting
yeah.
activated in his life
He
that he's
is.
been working on hard for
He
a couple
is.
years now, and he's just loving it.
Yeah.
And so happy that he
I
loves
know
it.
he found his groove and
Yeah.
becoming an adult more and more every time.
I
And
know.
doing
And
big
isn't he? Does it
things.
seem like he's getting taller every time?
yeah, well, he did seem. I don't know. Something about guys as they mature, they just look more masculine, and I don't know.
know.
I don't know. He
'Cause
said he wasn't taller, but he did look
Yeah.
more adult, I guess.
'Cause
Yeah.
I'm trying to think when you first met him, he was at least in school, in high school.
Oh yeah,
And so he's
definitely.
changed
I think
quite
he
a
was
bit.
a freshman, maybe. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So he's really changed a lot since
Yeah.
freshman.
Mhm.
Oh, that's true. I remember. Do you remember when he broke his collarbone?
I don't remember
Okay,
that.
maybe it was after that.
I don't.
I-
It doesn't mean I wasn't around. I just don't remember.
I remember because I saw a picture just a little bit ago
Uh-huh.
of a picture of him when in the doctor's office with the sling on,
I do remember that.
and he looked so tiny.
I do remember him breaking his collarbone. Yes.
It was terrible.
When you say
during
that about
football.
the picture, I have that picture in my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
his little sling.
Aw,
I know. It was terrible.
that's sad.
I know. But they grow so fast. So hug your
Yeah.
babies, love your babies, be
Aw.
present with them. Because it does. It goes
Mhm.
so fast. With Chad, I mean, it's just crazy how it just seems like yesterday that I
Yeah.
had him, my eldest. And I saw a picture of him the other day and of when he was young. And he's just so tiny. And
Mhm.
it's so funny how you usually, I think, for moms, we have a certain age that we picture our kids at. When I think of
Mhm.
Chad, I picture him like about 4 years old. And the same thing
Aw.
with Parker. And it's just neat how it's like my
You
baby.
never
They'll
really-
always be.
Yeah.
I'll always have that, even though they've grown into incredible men, young
Mhm.
men. So
Yeah, my parents always
So
say,
proud.
like, you never stop worrying
No,
about them.
you
You never
don't.
stop thinking about them, hoping they're okay.
and it just gets bigger because now I have a daughter. I hate to say daughter-in-law, a daughter in love.
Aw.
I have her, and I pray for her each day and think about
Yeah.
her, and it's just neat. Like your heart
Yeah.
just gets bigger, and as your family gets bigger, really.
That's so neat.
Yeah.
I love
I
it.
have grand dogs.
You do. You do.
I know.
Aw.
I was texting with my daughter in love, and she was telling me that one of the dogs, the stomachs were upset, and so
Ooh.
even like my grand dogs, I was like, texting her the next day, is it better?
Aw. That's so sweet.
I
You
know.
never stop being a mama.
Nope, never. Never,
That's
never,
so
never.
awesome.
So, what's happening in your world? I know that you have y'all got some exciting news for your family.
Oh yeah, we did. My oldest brother has been taking the CPA exam,
Mhm.
and apparently it's like in 4 parts. I did
Yeah.
not know that. Used to, you'd have to take it all in one day,
Yeah.
but now they break it down into 4 different parts. And what that tells me is that they're more dense because you have to study for each section.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's been out of school for a while. He has his got his bachelor's when he was in his 20s, and then he has like 4 kids. He's the sole
know.
provider, and I mean, my sister-in-law is amazing. Everything she does, they homeschool,
Yeah.
and he self-taught. He
Mhm.
studied himself, and he took all 4 sections and passed them all the first time. And because
So
you can if you pass one, you have so long to take
Yeah.
the second one or retake it and things like that. But he
so
passed
he is
all of 'em.
officially.
Officially a CPA.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Rick. Yeah,
I mean that's a great
huge.
accomplishment. My dad is a CPA and my sister is a CPA.
It's huge.
And yeah, I remember
Mhm.
them. Well, I don't remember my dad taking the test. I remember my sister taking the test.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal.
Yeah,
A huge deal.
I mean, and he did really well on it,
Mhm.
and I mean, none of us are surprised that he did so
Mhm.
well. But every time he'd take a test, he'd be like, "Well, I don't know," and
Yeah.
we would be like, "You got this," and he'd be like, "We'll see. I don't know, maybe." But
And I'll say I know it's hard with the family. I
yeah.
remember my dad. My dad went through. He was in the military, but he went
Mhm.
through college. So he had his full-time military job, and then he went through college when I was in middle school.
Mhm.
And like I remember him sitting at the desk for hours on end studying
Yep.
and to get your degree. So hats off to parents who especially go to school
Yeah.
or accomplish things like that after
Right.
they have a family.
I know.
Yeah.
It's incredible that
It's one thing
And
when you're
it's-
single, and not that doesn't have its own challenges.
no, but no kids and single is
I
very
know.
different than
And they have 4 kids.
They have 4 kids. They homeschool.
Cool.
I mean, it's incredible what they do. He works from home 3 days a week. I mean,
know.
it's crazy.
So the amount
they
of
pull it
focus
off.
that required,
Oh
the
my
amount of
gosh.
perseverance.
But yes,
So go, Rick.
I know.
Yeah.
And honestly, his wife too, Danielle,
Oh,
she
yeah.
really held up the other end so that he
Yeah.
could do that. And
That is true.
She's coaching swim team right now, so she is
That's
busy.
true.
All
Go-
day,
go,
every
Danielle.
day. So yeah, they really have. They really pulled through, and they pulled it. I say it's a group effort. They pulled it off. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think he going to do like his own.
Yeah,
like,
he wants to develop his own business and his own, CPA stuff. He's already
on the side.
he's got a
hustle.
mentor he works with, and that's really he's been working with, and he had his first client this tax season, and he loves it. It's neat when you're
Aw.
around somebody who finds their
What the-
passion
yeah.
because he just wants to talk about it all the time. You
That's
know,
exciting.
it is. It's really neat to see him just he's just like he just fell in love with it from this first accounting class when he was like 20 years old.
Wow.
He just knew he loved it, and that's all he wanted to do. So,
Aw.
yeah.
Well, blessings to him and
Yeah.
everybody out there. If you think to just say a prayer for Rick of favor
Yes.
upon his life, favor for his endeavors, and favor on his time.
Yeah.
Like just having so much. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
So,
Yeah.
I'm
Very
excited.
cool. Thank you.
Well, enough of our chit chat. We could go on.
Yeah.
We have a lot of exciting things, but I wanted to get into talking about apology languages, and I'm so excited to do this series. If you think about it, when you think about love languages, you know, how do we open somebody's heart to connection and things like that? But when you begin to talk about apology languages, I want you to think about a heart that has been hurt or heart that has been shut down, or if there's, you know, a little bit of tension between you and somebody, or just you know, just like I said, a hurt. How do we reopen that heart to be open to reconciliation, to be open to reconnection and things like that? And so a lot of times with apology languages, I want you to think about it. We kind of need all of the elements of an apology to move on. But at the same time, there's usually one or two languages that we speak that really begin to open up that door. That's like the first door that it goes through. Because when we're hurt, we're just hurt.
Right.
And a lot of times what apology languages are about, or just apology languages, is, do you care that I'm hurting? And I think that's the biggest, you know, question that we can answer. Do you care that I'm hurting? Can you take responsibility for this? And I think that that's just huge in the way of reconnecting. Man, allergies have really gotten me lately. But where I really want to focus tonight, each week we're going to go into talking more in depth about each type of language, each type of apology language. But I kind of wanted to address something tonight that's kind of like a caveat. I think that we live in a world where we don't really understand what apologies are for. I think sometimes we think we're owed. We do. We live in a world that's full of blame. Usually either we're blaming ourselves or we're blaming other people. And so a lot of times we have this mindset of, if I get hurt, somebody owes me an apology.
Yeah.
And, you know, let's talk about that. Let's open up a discussion about that. Because sometimes just because I get hurt, it doesn't mean somebody did something wrong.
Right.
Somebody did something to hurt me just because I get hurt. Because if you think about it, like, you know, we bring a portion of ourself and our experiences into every situation. So like, say you and I could be having a conversation. I could say a word that triggers you, and all of a sudden I've hurt your feelings because it feels like that.
Right.
But that doesn't, but how much of that is baggage that you're bringing in, and how much is it of what's between us? And I think we all have to begin to ask that. And there's different aspects of relationships, you know. Say like if you have the guy at the gas station, you know, like if they hurt your feelings, there's not a lot that needs to be done. It's not something that needs to be reconciled. But a lot of times we can get hurt, or what we call triggered, you know, when there's more emotion in the moment than really the moment calls for. Then we have to be like doing that math, that maybe the situation is like a 2 or 3, but it triggers me, so it brings I add an additional intensity of 4 or 5. Like then it's additive like that, and it really does feel like it's about that person,
Right.
instead of understanding that. Like, let me try to give an example of that. Just say when you were growing up in school, people called you stupid, right? Like people called, like we're just praying, nobody called her stupid, but let's pretend, you know, people called you stupid. And then I ask you a question, hey, what about this? And you feel stupid because you don't know that. And then instead of it just being about that, it's more about the trigger.
Right.
And it made you feel stupid. So anytime that you feel stupid, it brings up all the pain of everybody calling you stupid. And that would be an example of that. It wouldn't be necessarily about this exchange.
Right.
It would be more about the baggage that's not been processed from the past. And we see that all the time with clients, don't we?
Yes.
Like even in relationships, I would say like we see abandonment issues a lot. Is somebody has been let down a lot and then their partner lets them down.
Yeah.
It's not just that moment. Let's say somebody got stuck at work, they couldn't make it home from work, and I'm so sorry. I know that you really wanted to go to the movies. I know that we missed the movie time. And then instead of it being just about that moment and that one event, it's about all the times that they were abandoned, and they bring all that baggage into it, and it triggers, and it's like a form of PTSD where it brings up all that gunk of excuse me, it's not just what I feel in that moment from that situation. It's all the pain of every time I've been let down, I've been abandoned, and things like that. So when a lot of times when we start talking about apologies, we think we're owed an apology every time we get hurt, instead of realizing that some things don't have to do with the other person. Have you ever had somebody just demand an apology from you?
Try to.
And it's, I don't mind apologizing to anybody.
No, me either.
And at the same time, if we're in ongoing relationships, like let's say I'm at the store and somebody, we bump buggies, right?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about that. I don't have any problem doing that. Even if they're like, you should be sorry, you bumped into me. Okay.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Right.
So because you don't have an ongoing relationship with that person, a lot of what I'm talking about is if we have ongoing relationships with people and they're not dealing with their own emotional baggage, a lot of times there can be wounds that are reactivated, and one person or the other feels like they're owed an apology a lot. And instead of me managing my emotions, instead of me taking accountability for the baggage that I bring into the situation, I just want to blame, like I said, we're going to blame one of two people. I'm going to blame myself, or I'm going to blame you.
Right.
And in that, there's a different route to take, but it's all the same. It's all still blame, because if you're blaming, nothing gets solved.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like, it's wasted energy, because if I'm blaming myself, I'm not taking accountability. If I'm blaming you, I'm not taking accountability. The only way that accountability is taken, if no blame.
Yeah.
I have to take ownership, because and I think that confuses people a lot too. Fault and responsibility are two different things. We've talked about that before. Something like in relationships, honestly, like fault doesn't factor in, but sometimes we want to understand that it's somebody's fault so that it's not my fault. Like if you were raised in a home where you got in trouble a lot, or if it had to be perfect, everybody wants it to be not me, not me, not me. But sometimes things just happen, and that's okay. So when we begin to talk about apologies, I wanted to spend a lot of time on this subject.
Right.
And we're going to talk about this on the Zoom, where we do live in a culture where we think everybody owes us something emotionally. Like we're not empowered. We have victim thinking. And instead of me, there's definitely a time and a place for apologies, 100%. That's why, it's what opens somebody's heart again. But if I look at somebody and say, you're responsible for making me feel better, that's a problem. And a lot of times that's what people think apologies are.
Yep.
If you say, I can't feel better till you say I'm sorry.
Right.
No, that is not. But I will say in relationships, sometimes we get with ongoing relationships, sometimes we can get stuck. So what I would say, what I like for couples to do, what I like for people who are in ongoing relationships is if I get hurt, if I get offended, I don't know how much is the situation and how much is the baggage that I'm bringing into it, how much is my past that's showing up in my present. So how do I figure out that? Well, I know a person. The person is him. And if I will talk to the Lord, if I'll talk to the Holy Spirit and say, Lord, just show me. I got hurt in this situation, and I feel like this person hurt me, but I know that this person is a good person and this person is for me. That's why in ongoing relationships, you really have to believe that the people are for you. If you don't believe they're for you, then you're constantly weighing out. But if it's in your God squad, if it's on an ongoing relationship, you need to decide that this person's for me. So that way when we get triggered, when we get hurt, we can say that, you know what, I got hurt, but that person cares about me. I mean, like, two things can be true at one time. So if I get hurt, I want to go to the Lord and say, Lord, help me sort this out. What upset me about this? I know, like, say if it was my husband, I know my husband's a kind man. So if he said something that hurt my feelings, he didn't do it on purpose. So why am I having a hard time, like, with whatever happened? And the Holy Spirit can begin to minister to you. And really, a lot of times what he shows us is, hey, it's not about this situation. This situation just triggered a lot of, feelings that were a little bit deeper. And that's important to do, because sometimes if you go in hot, you did this. Like, first of all, you can't even talk correctly. You can't take ownership of your own words. You did this, and you did this, and you did this. And that, nobody will get anywhere with that. So you always want to take it to the Lord first. If you get upset about something, it's okay to say, okay, I can put this on the shelf and I'm going to talk to the Lord about it. And then after I talk to him about it, then I know what's left, because the Lord can, not in an ugly way at all, but the Lord can sort me out. The Lord can say, hey, sweetie, you're hurt over here, and that hurt looks larger here because that's a safer place to work it out than it is to deal with what this situation is that you've ignored anyway.
Yeah.
Who wants to deal with the bully on the playground? Like, it's easier to deal with somebody that like you can just pin it on, and it feels a little bit safer sometimes. Or sometimes, like have you ever met somebody that just that stays in a constant state of offense? Like, there's no doing right with a person like that. And it's not about right and wrong, but when somebody is in a constant state of offense, like, you're walking on eggshells around the person. Everything you say, they tend to take personally. And that's what happens. There's a couple questions that you can ask yourself. Do I tend to take everything personally? And a lot of times people do, if they haven't dealt with a lot of their wounds. The person that you're talking to, are they for you or are they against you? Like, decide it there. If they're for you, then it's a miscommunication. It's just something. There's not a lot of problems. There's not a lot of, if I say something and it hurts your feelings, I'm going to be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I would never want to hurt your feelings.
Right.
But where couples get off is they'll argue about, and I say couples, any type of ongoing relationship, they'll argue about motivation. Like, only I can say, wow, that was not my intent. I am so sorry. But a lot of times when people are going to argue, you would come back and you would say, no, you meant to say that.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Like, how do you know what I meant to say? I'm the only one in my mind. So there's a lot of trust. But if you've been hurt a lot in that area, then you're going to be fighting about a lot of other stuff than what's going on here. And especially, like we talk about it here, if our frontal lobe goes offline, what happens? You're not thinking right. You're thinking through like red. And you have to wait till your frontal lobe comes back online to really get any judgment back. So when in doubt, shut up. I hate to say it that way. But if you're triggered, if you're upset, you're not going to die if you don't talk about it in that moment. Wait till your frontal lobe comes back online. Go talk to Jesus about it and just say, okay, help me sort this out. And then if I still feel stuck, then is the time to come and to own my hurt, not tell you what you did wrong and you need to give me an apology. And this is a way, let me tell you 101 ways in which you suck. Like, no, like the truth is I can get hurt and somebody can have done nothing wrong.
That's true.
And so begin to think about it that way. And it makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Yes.
And because you can't just demand everybody apologize to you, or not even, I don't think people demand it, but people have this expectation. Well, I'm offended, so this person needs to apologize. No, it doesn't. Sometimes you get offended and no, like you're just offended
Yes.
and it's not that situation. But I'll say most people that are in an ongoing relationship, if they get offended, it's an easy fix. But you just kind of have to understand what the other person is saying and what the other person is kind of their perspective. But it doesn't mean there's a right or wrong. A lot of times it's just, do you care? Now, there's sometimes there is a clear right and wrong,
Right.
like in a situation. Like, let's say if we were talking and I just started yelling at you, obviously that would not be the best version of myself. So apology, absolutely. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have spoken to you disrespectfully. Like, I think some of the things are clear cut, but if you say something and I get my feelings hurt, that doesn't mean you did anything out of turn.
Right.
And that's when you really have to begin to say, wow, if I'm getting my feelings hurt a lot, if I'm getting offended a lot, if I feel hostile a lot, if I'm argumentative a lot, if I think somebody owes me an apology all the time, like, we really have to begin to think, okay, what's going on here? Maybe there's more to the situation. Maybe it's not that person. Maybe something's going on and triggering inside of me.
Right.
Because a lot of times when we do apology languages, I like to get that clear up front. You don't need an apology for every time you got hurt. Because a lot of times it's not even about the other person. I like to get that clear because as we begin to talk about the apology languages, it's so funny. Like, a lot of times we get, well, you need to say this to me and you need to, like, we get indignant with the information and use it as a weapon instead of a tool. We want you to use it as a tool in your relationship, but understand that apologies, yes, they're for connection and opening back up, but there's other things in the relationship that have to be okay for connection.
Yes.
Like, you can't be at strife with the person on an ongoing basis and think an apology language is going to fix that. It's like going into the ER, you're having a heart attack and we treat you for a splinter.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you need the right tool for the job. And I would say apology languages are more of a maintenance tool than like a root tool. But the thing is, with maintenance tools, if you are always doing that, when hurts are coming up, then, I mean, it does a lot. So let me see. Let me take a couple notes that I wrote down here. Okay. I'm not responsible for somebody else getting triggered, but I do want to be empathetic.
Yeah.
I do want to be present. I do care. But also at the same time, I can't be somebody's personal happiness manager.
Right.
So I think that's where you really have to discern. Obviously, be empathetic, be concerned, but understand both parties. Like, I need to understand if somebody can't fix it for me, and I need to understand if I can't fix it for somebody. So that's very, very, very important. And like, I think I covered the types of relationships. Okay, we are going to meet on Zoom in about 10 minutes or a little bit more than 10 minutes, but I'm going to go over the different apology languages just very quickly to familiarize yourself with them. But what is the most important thing before we start looking at it? Is an apology needed? You know?
Yeah.
Like, there's certain things that if I bring my own hurts into it, it's definitely worth a discussion with somebody and putting my walls down. But instead of demanding an apology, instead of feeling like the only way that's going to fix this is for somebody to apologize to me, is to understand that there's a lot more to getting hurt than just that current situation.
Yeah.
So one of the apology languages is expressing regret. And even before I say that, what's so interesting is we're gonna post. We'll be posting a link to the quiz. I don't have it. We're not going to post it in this live, but we'll go back on our page and post a link to the quiz to take for this because it's important to figure out. But I kind of want y'all to hear about it a little bit before you start doing that, because you can usually peg which one is yours. So expressing regret. And remember that, like with love languages, say if your acts of service and then somebody else is words of affirmation, those are probably gonna, like, you're not gonna understand the language that the other person is speaking. So you really have to make an effort to understand. Expressing regret is, I'm sorry. That's a lot of kind of what we're talking about is, wow, I'm so sorry that I hurt you. I'm so sorry that I let you down. But some people have a hard time saying I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it's just the word. I'm not going to say I'm sorry if I'm not wrong. Like they make it about right or wrong instead of saying, man, I'm sorry. I wish I wouldn't have hurt you in that way. Sometimes people think that in order to say I'm sorry means I have to admit I'm wrong. And sometimes people have a hard time admitting they're wrong.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that you can always do is if somebody's hurt, you can always be sorry that they're hurt. I'm so sorry that I would have done something that you would have received hurtfully.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about that, because I think we all, if you're in a relationship, that's just like a universal given. But at the same time, understand that sometimes people, I have had couples say, I will not say I'm sorry for that because I'm not wrong.
Yep.
And that is not conducive to staying in a relationship.
Not a very happy one.
It's not. So expressing regret, we'll be talking a little bit about that, but kind of like I need you, like, please be sorry. And there's a lot of psychology behind that, but we'll talk a little bit that when we get more into that. I was wrong is accepting responsibility. Accepting responsibility, like say if I was supposed to meet you and I totally forgot about it, and you were accepting responsibility as your apology language, I think you have to hit them all. But what do you lead with? I'm so sorry. That's totally on me. I was wrong. I'm just so sorry about that.
Yeah.
I apologize. What can I do to make it up? Next time I'm going to set 6 alarms. Like, you know what I mean? You can hit them all, but you want to hit the one. Sometimes people just need, if there's an accepting responsibility, they need to hear, I'm wrong, that you're wrong. And in that's where I kind of talk about, like, if it's not a situation where there's a right or a wrong,
Right.
I think it gets a little testy, like it gets a little touchy. Because if I hurt your feelings and you just want me to say you said that and you're talking about my motivation and you want me to say I'm wrong, there's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
Instead of understanding that I can't speak to somebody's motivation. That's where, like, a lot of that stuff really comes into play in apology languages. So I really want you to think about that. There's things like, obviously, if I was supposed to meet you and I didn't, oh my gosh, that's totally on me.
Yeah.
If I'm a blamer, I might try to say, well, you didn't call and remind me, or you know what I mean? Like, but if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you said you're going to do this and it didn't happen, so what about, there might have been, traffic, there might have been a million different things, but take responsibility for it. Making restitution. That sounds like, how can I make this right?
Yeah.
Restitution, and sometimes, like I said, some of them are adverse. They're just directly in conflict with each other. Expressing regret, I'm sorry. Somebody, like, if I say I'm sorry and then they're making restitution, they don't want to care. I don't care that I'm sorry. They want to know what you're going to do to make this right.
Yeah.
Let's say I was supposed to pick up your dry cleaning and I forgot to pick up your dry cleaning. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Well, sorry ain't going to get me anywhere if you're making restitution. What restitution would look like, I'm so sorry, let me leave right now and go pick up your dry cleaning. I'll be back. That's making restitution. How can I make what happened right? How can I make up for this? Honestly, there's just things that you can't make up for.
Yep.
If I broke your vase, it could have been an accident, but I can't give you your vase back. I can try to fix it. How would making restitution look? I can try to fix it. I can say, I apologize. I cannot replace this, but at a minimum, can I please buy you a vase that replaces this? Because sometimes things are just broken and you can't make restitution with some things. If you forgot about a dinner, you can't make that dinner right again, but you can offer a new dinner.
Yeah.
So sometimes making restitution is a little sticky. And I think sometimes people feel like if somebody's apology language is making restitution, it's a little, I mean, it almost feels like, oh, they're creating a punishment, or it feels like a fine to some people, not all people. But that's why I say, understand that sometimes your apology language will bump up against somebody else's, and one is not right, one is not wrong. It's just the first door to reopening your heart to connection. So you've got to talk your partner's language. They changed this, and I love that they changed it. They used to call it, right now it's called planned change. And I love that, because it used to be called genuinely repenting. And that's kind of like, the language and the terminology, I think, was really triggering for a lot of people. And the way that, how do you know if I've repented genuinely or not? But at the heart of what it was is this. It's, I'll take steps to prevent a reoccurrence. So planned change is, I want to hear what you're going to do so that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
I don't care that you're sorry. I don't care, like, you can't fix it, so I don't need you to make restitution. What are you going to do next time so that this doesn't happen? And sometimes that's just what people need to hear. You know, if I'm late, you know, I apologize. I'm going to set 6 alarms next time. It won't happen again. And that's, you know, part of that taking responsibility, and then that plan change. Here's my plan so that I don't hurt you again in this way. Understand, nobody's perfect. But if you have a plan, there's a conscious, intentional way that, hey, I'm going to try not to hurt you again, versus just, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
You know, people who plan change, that's very important to them. And I love this last one, the simplicity of it. But so to some people, it's very important. It's, can you find it in your heart to forgive me? Some people just need to hear you ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And again, with each one of these, they can be triggering to people. Why do I need to ask for forgiveness? I didn't do anything wrong. Like, but in that, like, it was a mistake. You know, we hear that a lot. It was just a mistake. Why do I need forgiveness for a mistake? But if you understand what apology languages stand for, it's just a way to reconnect. If there's an offense, let me get in there. Let me apologize for it. Let me open up all the doors of the heart. Because I think a genuine apology, if you don't know somebody's apology language, hit all of them. But I think you should hit all of them anyway. And what that might look like is, say, if I forgot about a lunch, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I forgot about our lunch. I completely let you down, and there's no excuse for that. What I'd like to do to make it up is, I'd like to take you right now, or is there another time that I can take you? In the future, I'm going to make sure absolutely that I write this down in my calendar, so that next time this will not happen again. And can you please forgive me for this? And if you hit all of them, like, there's a chance that you're going to hit their apology language. So if you don't know, do that. But for the people you're in ongoing relationships with, you need to know their apology language, because you want to hit their top first and second. Because that's kind of what begins the melting of the iceberg, the melting of the offense. Because when we're hurt, we're just hurt, you know? And I don't care about excuses. You know, an apology doesn't have a but in it. An apology, sometimes I think, where people get off track additionally, is I say that I'm sorry for something, and I want, and with all of our genuineness of our heart, we want to give context to what was happening. And context, when you're making an apology, sounds like an excuse versus sounding like an apology. So 100% add context, add a different conversation. You know, I call it, like, there's a lot of times we need to do follow-up conversations. I can apologize to you. I can come back around, like, say, if I forgot our lunch and I gave you the apology, maybe the next day, you know, I just want to circle back around to let you know that our lunch was very important to me. And I had so much on my mind, and I just don't want you to think that it wasn't important to me. Like, that's two different conversations, because if I say that in the first conversation, it's going to sound like an excuse. Context equals excuse if you pair it with an apology in that same conversation. But context is good. It's just not in the same conversation. So remember that. So next week, we are going to be talking about expressing regret and maybe accepting responsibility. We're going to see how those break up, because I really want to do these thoroughly,
Yeah.
because it will open up your world. If we can constantly offend somebody without intentionally meaning to offend somebody. So if you want to learn how to open up back up somebody's heart, there's, like I said, relationships are important, and we want to keep offenses out. We want to keep our side of the street clean. And so let's learn how to do that. We are going to log on to Zoom, and we're going to have our healing meeting, and we're going to continue this conversation. I think there's a lot of points that we brought up that would be important to talk about.
Agreed.
So I'm going to pray us out, and Christina's going to get ready to take us off the air, and we can meet you online. Dear Lord, we just humbly come before you. We just thank you for this time together. Lord, we thank you that you would just show each one of us what our apology language is, and show us with others, Lord. Let us be a united body of Christ. Let us be in unity with everybody in the body. Lord, we thank you that you pour out wisdom and you pour out solutions. Lord, if I'm hurt, Lord, thank you. I receive healing that you have for my hurts. Lord, if I've hurt somebody, if I offended somebody, Lord, let me find the words to open their heart and to reestablish communication. And Lord, thank you that you're always our advocate. Lord, there's many times when we have offended people that we have no idea. We thank you that you're constantly our advocate in solving these hurts and these wounds and bringing up togetherness and unity. In Jesus' name, amen.